Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome on in. Hope you all are having yourselves a wonderful start to a new month. We are in August now. July is over, but boy howdy, summer does just not seem to be letting up at all. We're back. It's a little short stream today. We're just doing a little afternoon session, but today is the release date for Edge of Eternities, and I am very excited. We missed out on the Final Fantasy Precon boxes, but I'm very excited to be popping open these guys with y'all today. So let's go ahead and switch ourselves on over real quick and get to our camera so that y'all can get in on this fun stuff. So we have here with us today, we've got the two Edge of Eternities Precons. Both sets introducing some new mechanics that I'm very excited to explore, but also some very familiar ones that have been around since the get-go. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what we've got going here. So let's go ahead and pop these on open. Let's see which one we're going to start with today. We have Counterintelligence, which is in the Jeskai colors, which is not a color set that I'm as familiar with. I maybe played like one deck, I think, in this particular color scheme. I think my Captain America deck is probably my main one that I have. And then we have the World Shaper, which is in the Jund color set, which I have to say, I've avoided most of the spoilers for this set, but if there's one thing that I've definitely come out of from some of the spoilers is that I think that this set is probably going to be one of the things that may end up eventually changing my mind about land destruction. I've never been a big fan of the land destruction mechanic in general. It's just not a mechanic that I typically have a lot of fun playing with, but some of the stuff that I have seen pop out from this one, I'm very curious to see how that ends up playing out in the long run. Hello, welcome on in. Thank you for being here. All right, let's see here. What are we going to start with? Are we going to start with the Jeskai or are we going to start with the Jund? Let's start. You know what? I've been kind of excited about this Jund ones. I think we're probably going to save this one for second. I think we'll go ahead and start things off on our Counterintelligence. It's a color scheme that I'm not normally as familiar with, and it utilizes some Proliferate, which is a fun mechanic that I haven't played a lot around with, so I'm kind of curious about this one. So why don't we start things off here? Hello, Thomas. Welcome on in. All right, let's go ahead and pop this guy open, and let's see what we've got going on here. Oh, off to a great start here, y'all. Oh, we're so good. We're so good at this. All right. Pop this guy on open here. There's our little sample pack. We'll make sure we get that open momentarily. Got our boxy. Unboxing fail. We're off to a great start here. And there it is. The In-Spirit flagship vessel. Excited to open that up in a second, but first things first, we do have to make sure that we pop open our little collector booster sample pack, because these are the important things. So let's pop this open and see what we got here. All right, let's see what we got. A token! No, it's actually what's under the token. All right, let's see here. We've got, ooh, the Sarima. I actually got a copy of this in my pre-release kit, but having a second one is definitely not a bad thing. This is a solid card. It has a little built-in tutor, but also some protection with the built-in, once you get it stationed up to 7+, it makes other legendary creatures you control have indestructible. Definitely a fun mechanic. Definitely look forward to playing around with that one. And Dual Sun Adepts, a nice little 2/2 with double strike, gives creatures you control 1/1 until end of turn. So, a couple of fun ones there. Yes! Spaceship! Spaceships are one of the big things in this particular set. One of the big things being that they changed the rules. Oh, there goes my camera. They changed the rules on how you can, on what is allowed to be a commander. As of right now, vehicles and spaceships, as long as they still follow the legendary rule, can in fact be your commander. Case in point here with this very first one right here, the boxed commander being a legendary artifact spaceship. Which spaceships work by the mechanic of they start off as artifacts when they go onto the field, but they have a new mechanic called Station, at which point you tap a creature to station the spaceship based on its power. And that power will go up to a certain count. For example, on this one, it has +1, so once you get up to 1 power fed into it, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a 1/1 counter or 2 charge counters on up to 1 other artifact. And then we get up to 8 charge counters on here. It has flying, and other artifacts you control have hexproof and indestructible, which is pretty gnarly. All right, let's go ahead and pop this guy open, and let's go ahead and run through what's in this precon. I know, rules in my card game, who would have thought? Yeah, we got some epic music going on with our Pretzel Rocks feed right now. All right. So, let's go ahead and run through things here. We've got In Spirit, flagship vessel, which I just read out earlier. It's a 5/5 spaceship with station. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a 1/1 counter or 2 charge counters on up to 1 other target artifact. And then up to 8 charge, you get flying. Other artifacts you control have hexproof and indestructible. And then we have the secondary commander here, which is the one on the box front. But Kilo Apogee Mine, which is the one I'm kind of curious about. But it's a Jeskai, one of each color. It's a 3/3 robot artificer with haste, and whenever it becomes tapped, proliferate. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, proliferate is a mechanic where when you proliferate, choose any number of permanents or players and give each of them another counter of each kind already there, which is a pretty wild mechanic with a lot of versatility depending on how it is that you want to play it, because there's all sorts of cards in the game that include counters. Whether it be the new spaceship mechanics would have charge counters. There are other cards in the game that have charge counters as well, but it also counts things like energy counters, experience counters, poison counters, 1/1 counters, all kinds of counters. But basically, when you proliferate, you can up any number of a counter on people, on creatures, etc., and up the ante on them. And it's counters. So it's a pretty wild mechanic, and this one is built all around it, which is going to be kind of a fun one to play with. Next, we have the Patrolling Peacemaker. It is a 0/0. This creature enters with 2 1/1 counters, and whenever an opponent commits a crime, proliferate. See, already sensing a theme here. Count Dracula. Committing a crime is if they target an opponent, anything an opponent controls, and our opponent's graveyards to proliferate. And then, yes, so that's a pretty wild way to get proliferating pretty easy, pretty quickly. Insight Engine. 3 mana, tap 2 and tap it, put a charge counter on this artifact, and draw a card for each charge counter on it. Oh my god! So that can escalate very quickly. Because each time you tap it, it increases in its value. Plus, when you add on top of it, proliferate on top of everything else, this thing can get wild very quickly, and in no time you'll just be drawing an insane amount of cards. That is wild. Uthros, Research Craft. It's another station. It's a 0/8 off the get-go, so it is when you cast an artifact spell, draw a card. Put a charge counter on this spacecraft. So it has a way to be able to self-charge. That's cool. And then at 12 charge, it has flying. It gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, building up very quickly. Depth Shaker Titan. It's a 5/5 robot. When this creature enters any number of target non-creature artifacts you control, become 3/3 artifact creatures. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Oh god. So quick little way to get some turnaround on your other artifacts and get some more value out of them. They turn them into creatures, and then they get sacrificed right away. Each artifact creature you control has melee, trample, and haste. Oh my god, the melee mechanic coming back. So whenever a creature with melee attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attack this turn, which in Commander gets pretty wild. Essentially makes it so that every creature with melee in a Commander game, as long as you're attacking all 3 opponents, gets +3/+3 until end of turn, which is just wild. Long Range Sensor. Whenever you attack a player, put a charge counter on this artifact. Another way to build up charge really quick. Tap 1, remove 2 charge counters from this artifact. Discover 4. Activate only as a sorcery. So a quick way to, again, get some value and get cards out of your deck really quickly. Because Discover 4, exile cards from the top of your library until you find something of mana value 3 or less. Either play it or put it in your hand. And then put the rest back on the bottom of the random order. So a great way to get through your deck really quickly. Moxite Refinery. Tap 2, remove X charge counters from an an artifact or creature you control. Choose one, activate only as a sorcery. Put X charge counters on target artifact, but X 1/1 counters on target creature. Again, with these counters, this is getting really wild really quickly. And this you can get so much value out of because it doesn't specify what kind of counter. You can move any counters from an artifact or creature you control, and then just insanely buff up something else on the field. Solar Array. Looks like it's going to be a mana rock. Add 1 mana of any color. When you next cast an artifact spell this turn, that spell gains Sunburst. There's a mechanic I haven't seen in a while. Sunburst, if it's a creature, it enters in the field with a 1/1 counter on it for each color of mana spent on it. So if you spend one of each other color, it's a quick way to get some quick value onto the field. Surge Conductor. Whenever another non-token artifact you control enters, proliferate. Again, just easy proliferate access. This will get wild pretty quickly. And here are some of our special lands. We have Glittering Massive. It's a cycle land that comes in tapped. Radiant Summit, another cycle land. Oh no, this one enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. So there you go. Swan Song? Oh my god! I had no idea they were going to include Swan Song in this set. This is a staple blue counterspell, one of the cheaper ones and one of the higher value ones you get out of it. It's just 1 blue, counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. Its controller makes a bird. Insane. Insane value for just 1 mana. And it's an instant. Chaos Warp, classic. Nice little element of chaos. Basically, remove a permanent opponent has, and then shuffle it into the library, and then take chance and gamble what the top card of the library is, and they play that instead. Cloud Key, solid. As this artifact enters, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, or instance, or sorcery, and spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Great value card that you can get all kinds of things, depending on what direction you want to take it with your particular deck. Swan Song is such a good counter, but it really is. It's really, really good. And Cloud Key has so much flexibility, you can use it in so many different ways. Gavel of the Righteous. Looks like you got an equipment card. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a charge counter on this equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on it. And as long as this equipment has 4 or more charge counters, equipped creature has double strike. Equip is pay 3 or remove a charge counter from this equipment. Okay, so pretty inexpensive to equip, all things considered, and lots of high value on this card. So that's a pretty wild equipment, and only 2 costs to cast. That can get pretty crazy pretty quickly. That's fair, and this is why I'm trying to do the best I can to try to explain mechanics to people who may be less familiar with them. And then we have Battlefield Forge, Painland. Tap 1 for colorless, or get your colors red or white with 1 damage. Classic. Angel of the Ruins, a classic. I love this card. It's 5/7 artifact angel. When it enters, exile up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments, and if all else fails, you can always plane cycle it for 2 mana to get some more mana onto your field. Fumigate, another classic. I love this card. Destroy all creatures, gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. Great board wipe, great value. Organic Extinction, another great one. This one is fantastic for artifact decks. First of all, it has improvise, so you can use your artifacts to make it cheaper to cast, tapping your artifacts for 1 mana value for each, and then destroy all non-artifact creatures. If you're playing a heavy artifact deck, this is a must include for board wiping. Fantastic card. Resourceful Defense. Enchantment. Whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. Great! So that's a great way to maintain some value, even when cards are leaving the battlefield. So you can take those counters that are on them, move it onto something else, and still keep that value. Tap 5, move any number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent you control. So great way to just kind of move those counters around where they're going to be the most useful. That seems like a lot of fun to play with. Chrome Host Seed Shark. Flying, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. So incubator, you create a token, put X 1/1 counters on it, and then you can tap 2 to transform that token into a 0/0 creature, which will of course get pumped up by those counters that are on it, so it gets pumped up real quick, real fast. That seems like a lot of fun to play with. I get the idea. You play cards to have monsters fight each other. Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah. In some ways, yes. But the actual rules of the game are lost to me. I mean, look, Thomas, the rules have changed so much over the years. There have been new mechanics added. There's a reason why Magic is often described as one of the most complicated games. I mean, look, turn order, tap mana. I mean, you're already off to a good start. You've got some of the mechanics down already. You got phases. See, you're getting it. You're getting it. Cyberdrive Awakener. It's a 4/4 artifact creature. Flying. Other artifact creatures you control have flying All right, great value right there. And when it enters, each non-artifact creature you control becomes a 4/4 until end of turn. So great instant on the battlefield value as well. That's pretty awesome. Deep Glow Skate. It's a fishy. When the creature enters, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents. Dear God, that's a great way to just make your board explode with counters. Emery, classic. Love Emery, Lurker of the Lock. Great for artifact decks as well. It gets cheaper to cast the more artifacts you have. When it enters, mill 4 cards, and then you can tap it, choose an artifact in your graveyard, and you can cast it this turn. Solid value for that. I have a copy of that in my Iron Man deck. Love that card. Kappa Cannoneer. Another artifact creature with Improvise that has Ward 4. Whenever this creature or another artifact you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. It can't be blocked this turn. Okay, so a nice little way to get it pumped up pretty quick when other artifacts start coming onto the field. And it has Ward, so hard to get rid of. Yes. All I know is Grandpa left me his Exodia, so I can win the game if I get all 5 parts. It's time to unlock more cards. Phyrexian Metamorph. It costs 3 and a Phyrexian. Phyrexian manas are an interesting mechanic. As opposed to just paying the mana value, you can pay the mana value or you can pay 2 life instead, in this case being blue. You may have this creature enter as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield except as an artifact in addition to its other types. Solid. That seems like a great way to get some more value out of a high value card on the field. Pull from tomorrow, draw X cards, then discard a card. Another great one, you can tap X to get as many card draws you want and then only have to discard one of them, so great card draw value. Ripples of Potential. Proliferate, then choose any number of permanents you control that have a counter put on it that way. Those permanents phase out. Okay, so a nice little way to offer some protection while also pumping things up at the same time, so that's pretty awesome. Tethuka, Inquiry Dominus. Ooh, this looks like a fun one. Legendary creature. Phyrexian Horror. Flying. If you would proliferate twice instead. Oh my God. That will explode so quickly. And then you can tap 1 and 2 Phyrexian Blues, remove 3 counters from among other artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers you control, put an indestructible counter on Tethuka. So not only insanely increasing your proliferate value, but also offering a means to be able to make it hard to remove from the game board as well. That's insane. Thought Monitor, classic. It's a 2/2 flyer, gets cheaper for the more artifacts you have, and when it enters, draw 2 cards. Universal Surveillance. Tap 3 and 3. Tap X and 3 blue. It has Improvise, so your artifacts can make it cheaper. Draw X cards. Okay, so you can use your artifacts to draw a whole bunch of cards. Always fun. Chain Reaction, solid removal. Does more damage for the more creatures that are on the board. It deals X damage for X is the number of creatures on the board, so another good board wipe. Alibu! Oh, Alibu. Love me my Alibu. Other artifact creatures you control have haste. And whenever one or more artifact creatures you control attack, Alibu deals X damage to any target and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control. So encourages you to tap those artifacts, get some good value, and a haste mechanic. Always solid. Johira! Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. There's so much card draw in this deck. It's insane. Oh my God, you're going to be drawing so many cards. Wake the Past, nice artifact recursion. Return all artifacts from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. That's just insane value. Insane value. Oh, I got it back here. Okay. Astral Cornucopia. It's 3x. This artifact enters with X charge counters on it. Choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on this artifact. So a nice solid mana rock. I wouldn't stop my artifacts too hard and broke them all. I mean, valid. Crystalline Crawler. This creature enters with a 1/1 counter on it for each color of mana cast on it. So essentially, I mean, that's essentially Sunburst in a way. Remove a 1/1 counter to add 1 mana of any value, and you can tap it to add a 1/1 counter to it. Okay, so a nice solid mana dork that you can add mana just by removing counters, and with the Proliferate, it'll be really easy to add counters onto there, so that's pretty awesome. Dark Steel Reactor. It's an indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on it. When this artifact has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. Nice solid win con. With some Proliferate, that can get pumped up real quick, and it's indestructible, so hard to remove. Solid. Empowered Autogenerator. This artifact enters tapped. Put a charge counter on this artifact at X mana of any one color, where X is the number of charge counters on this artifact. So a nice solid mana rock. Hangerback Walker. This creature enters with X 1/1 counters on it. When this creature dies, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying for each 1/1 counter on this creature. So when it dies, you get a nice wide board. Just put a bunch of Thopters on the field. Lux Artillery. Whenever you cast an artifact creature spell, it gains Sunburst. So again, the more colors you use to cast it, the more counters it comes on it. At the beginning of your end step, if there are 30 or more counters among artifacts and creatures you control, this artifact deals 10 damage to each opponent. With Proliferate, that would not be hard to accomplish. Lux Cannon. Put a charge counter on this artifact. Remove 3 charge counters from it, destroy a target permanent. Okay, so nice little solid, reliable removal that's just on the board, just when you feel like it, just buy permanent. Steel Overseer Classic. It's a 1/1. You tap it, put a 1/1 counter on each artifact creature you control. Simple, but just solid. Threefold Thunderhulk. This creature enters with 3 1/1 counters on it. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, create a number of 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature tokens equal to its power. Tap 2 and sacrifice another artifact, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So, whenever this creature enters or attacks, you're again making a nice wide board with a whole bunch of little robo-gnomes. Love it. And it has a nice, easy way. And again, sacrificing other artifacts makes it bigger. So, another way to basically just pump it up and, yeah, solid. Titan Forge. Tap 3, put a charge counter on it. Remove 3 charge counters from it, create a 9/9 golem. Well, that's a way to get some big beefies on the field pretty nicely. Arcar Waste, another ping land, Cascade Buff, some more color correction, Clifftop Retreat, more of these fun manas. All the classics, all the classic lands. Cairn's Bastion, always good. A nice land that offers you another means to proliferate. Tap 4, proliferate. So even with your lands, you're proliferating. The Mycosynth Gardens. Tap it for a colorless. You can also tap 1 and tap it for 1 mana of any color. And tap X, this land becomes a copy of target non-artifact token you control with mana value X. Okay, solid. Nice little way to get some extra value out of that. And it's a sphere. More color correction lands, Spire of Industry, a must include. Sulfur Falls. Here we are. We're getting more to the land stuff here. There we go. Sword to Plowshares, classic removal. Tezzeret's Gambit. Draw 2 cards and proliferate, and you can pay for it with Phyrexian mana. Always fun. With all this tapping, you better be sure to win the dance contest. I mean, always. Thirst for Knowledge, more card draw. Our Signet, our Pendant Prism. Has Sunburst, remove a charge counter from this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. So again, more ways to be able to get some nice mana value out of it. Soul Ring, Command Tower. Dispatch, essentially a Swords to Plowshares, but better suited for artifact decks, because it has Metalcraft. If you have 3 more artifacts, exile that creature. Ethereum Sculptor, artifacts cost 1 less to cast, solid. Experimental Augury. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library, and proliferate. Again, just proliferate everywhere. Thummingbird, whenever it deals combat damage, proliferate. Enthusiastic Mechanic, artifacts are cheaper. Core Tapper, put a charge counter on target artifact and sacrifice this creature, put 2 charge counters on target artifact. So again, more counters. Etched Oracle, remove 4 1/1 counters from this creature. Target player draws 3 cards. So again, more card draw. Everflowing Chalice, solid. Nice way to get some good mana value out of it. You have a multi-kicker on it. The more mana you spend to cast it, the more value you get out of it long term. Golem Foundry, whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a charge counter on this artifact, remove 3 counters, get a 3/3 golem. So again, more token creation. Mindless Automaton, card draw, Soul Lantern, Graveyard Hate, and the classic artifact lands. Buried Ruin, a must-have in an artifact deck. Here we are, more of our classic lands here. I think we're down to lands at this point, unless I'm mistaken. Yep, there's our lands, there's our tokens, and that is our first precon. I have not played around with the proliferate mechanic very much, but I gotta say, I'm super excited to see how this deck plays. This is gonna be a fun one to play, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's gonna get very wild very quickly, and there's so many different directions you can take it. I can see it exploding in so many different ways. It has so much potential to it, and a lot of flexibility. I'm excited. Plus, also, I'm a sucker for artifacts in general, so, you know, you got me with artifact deck. All right, we have our second unboxing. A little time left here. Looks like we are still making good time here. We're trying to see if we can get this done before 1 o'clock. That proliferate mechanic is spreading all over. Oh my. I'm very much looking forward to it. All right, second boxing. And again, we are failing at this whole unboxing thing. We are just apparently inefficient when it comes to the process of unboxing things. Who knew that boxes would be my arch nemesis today? All right, Edge of Eternities. There's our collector booster. And there's our deck with Hearthhole, the World Seed. Just don't mess up your pretty nails. I mean, look at them. They are quite pretty. But yes, Hearthhole, the World Seed. It's a station. Another one starting with the station at the front. Tap 1, sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards. You may play an additional land this turn. So nice little way to get some land value out of it. And I know there's going to be some land recursion in here, so that's going to be solid. And if you get up to 8 charge counters on it, whenever you sacrifice a land, each opponent loses 2 life. So you kill your own lands, you start smacking people. I can see that being all kinds of silly, but also just a fun one to play with. All right, first things first, let's get our collecty boosty open here. Whoop, there goes things flying. All right, let's see what we got here. Alrighty. Slide those on out of here. And you guessed it! It's a token! Alright, for real though, let's see what we got. Survey says a Lumen class frigate. It's a 3/5 spacecraft with station. Other creatures you control get 1/1, and it has flying and lifelink. Another solid one. Only 2 mana, so pretty good value out of that. And to pump it up, it becomes a 3/5 with flying and pumps up your other creatures. That's pretty solid. And then we've got a Debris Field Crusher. I got a couple of these from my pre-release kit. Just another fun spacecraft. Deals damage when it enters, and you can pump it up, and it's of course a flyer. So fun stuff. All right, let's take a look and see what we got in the deck itself. Of course, they make these things super fun and super easy to open. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. My laptop's getting a little low on battery here, so I gotta make sure that's on the charger. All right, fix that up here. All right. Let's get this popping on open here. There we go. All right. Get our garbage out of the way. Let's see what we got here. So starting off strong, we read it earlier. Hearthhole, the World Seed. Legendary Artifact Spacecraft. Sacrifice a land, draw some cards, and you can play extra lands. And then once it gets pumped up enough, it has Flying, Vigilance, Haste, and when you sack your lands, you shock your opponents. So definitely going to be a fun mechanic to play with. Secondary commander we have in here is Sazrel, Genesis Shepherd. It's a 2/5 insect druid with flying. You may play lands from your graveyard. Of course, it makes sense in this kind of a deck. And whenever you sacrifice another non-token permanent during your turn, put a number of 1/1 counters on equal to Sazrel's power on up to 1 target creature. So sacrifice things, get some value out of it. Solid. Let's start off here. We have the Emudian Wastewaker. Whenever this creature attacks, you and defending player each discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. You draw a card for each land that was put into a graveyard this way. And it has Encore, so you can play it again from your graveyard. Which, hang on a second. Exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token. That's right. You make a token copy of it, and then yes, that's right. All right. Up next, we've got Evendo Brush Razor. It's another insect warrior. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token permanent, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, as long as you've sacrificed a non-token permanent this turn, you can play cards exiled with this creature. And then, of course, you can tap it, sack a land for 2 mana. Planetary Annihilation. This is the gross card that got spoiled for me. And I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it, but this deck might end up making me turn around a little bit on land destruction. I don't know. We'll see. But Planetary Annihilation. Each player chooses 6 lands they control and then sacrifices the rest. And then on top of that, it deals 6 damage to each creature. Disgusting. Baloth Prime, this creature enters tapped with 6 stun counters. Whenever you sacrifice a land, create a 4/4 beast and untap this creature. And then you can tap 4 sack a land to gain 2 life. So it's a big beastie, a 10/10 beefy boy there. Only 4 mana to cast. It comes in with some stun counters on it, but whenever you sack a land, you get beasts out of it. This is going to get some insane value very quickly. Exploration Broodship. It's only a 1 mana cost. As Station 3, you can play an additional land on each turn, and Station 8, flying once during each of your turns, you may cast a permanent from your graveyard by sacrificing a land in addition to paying its other costs. I'm sensing a theme here. Horizon Explorer. Lands you control enter untapped. That's nutty. There are so many lands that typically enter tapped. That's going to be a way to make things wild. And whenever you attack a player, create a lander, which is essentially a Wayfarer's Bauble. You tap 2, tap it, sack it, and then you search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So, nice little ramp there. Scouring Swarm, 3 mana. Flying, whenever you sacrifice a land, create a tapped token that's a copy of this creature, if 7 or more land cards are in your graveyard. Otherwise, create a 1/1 black instant token with flying. Interesting! Oh, interesting! This is almost kind of like a reverse Scoot Swarm. So instead of landfall making copies of this, it's land sacrifice making copies of it. Interesting. Oh, that's nutty. Oh, I'm curious about that. Emudian Hatchery. Pay 1 life, add a swamp, put a hatchling counter on this land. When this land is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each hatchling counter on it, for each hatchling counter on it, make an insect. Festering Thicket. So we got our special lands here, all that good stuff. Fabled Passage. Tap, sacrifice this land, search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. Pretty solid. So if you have, early game, a nice easy way to be able to get your color corrections that you need. But if you do it later game, that land comes in untapped and you get some additional value out of it. So essentially a more higher value Evolving Wilds. Oh my god. Of course they put Braids in this deck. Freaking Braids. Braids are a nightmare. At the beginning of your end step, you can sacrifice something, and if you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent of their choice that shares a card type with it, and for each of them who doesn't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. Disgusting. God Eternal Bontu. Zombie God, Menace. When it enters, sacrifice any number of other permanents and draw that many cards, and when it dies, it is put into exile from the battlefield, you can put it on top of its owner's library, 3rd from the top. So, one of those gods that's just really hard to get rid of, and has a lot of value whenever you bring it in and whenever it dies. Blast Act, of course, solid removal. Hammer of Perforos, nice little haste engine. Sack a land, make some golems. Morog, Fury of Akum. It's a 6/6. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn, and it has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So a nice little additional combat engine. And it just says your main phase. It doesn't say your first main phase, which means if you landfall during your second main phase, actually, no, it would still be, so if it's in your main phase, you would get a combat, and then you would get an additional combat after this phase, and then you might be able to do it a second time, so you could potentially get up to 3 combats in a turn if you were to play this correctly, which is still pretty wild. Augur of Autumn. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, play lands from the top of your library, and as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So nice little way to get some additional lands out and go through your deck and get some of those creatures on the field. Center Vine Crasher. This creature enters with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of lands in all graveyards. And whenever a land is put into a graveyard from anywhere, you may pay 2. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. So some nice recursion, built-in trample. Solid. You've had 1 combat, yes, but what about 2nd and 3rd combat? Formless Genesis. It's a changeling. Create an XX colorless shapeshifter token with changeling and death touch, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. And it has retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land in addition to paying its other costs. So has another nice recursion there. Loamcrafter Fawn. 3 mana. When it enters, you can discard 1 or more lands. When you do, return up to that many target non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Discard lands, get stuff back from the graveyard. Seems pretty solid. Multani, solid. A must-have in land recursion decks. Has reach and trample, gets +1/+1 for each land you control on each land in your graveyard, and you can tap 2, return 2 lands to you control to your owner's hand, and return this card from your graveyard to your hand. So nice, easy recursion mechanic, plus also it lets you take advantage of landfall triggers and things along those lines additional times. Oracle of Moldiah. Play additional lands on each of your turns. Play the top card of your library revealed. You can play lands on the top of your library. Again, lots of those being included in here. Solid. Pest Infestation. Solid. It has an X cost. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create X 1/1 black and green pest tokens with when this creature dies, gain 1 life. So nice board removal for those nasty enchantments and artifacts you don't like on the field. And on top of that, you get a whole bunch of little tokens that when they die, you gain a bunch of life. Always solid. Rampaging Baylofts. I've wanted a copy of this card for so long. It has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you get a beast. So just solid value. You just start getting a nice wide board real quick. Splendid Reclamation, solid land recursion, all those lands that are in your graveyard, yeah, back to your battlefield tap now. Tireless Tracker, a must-have in landfall decks. Whenever a land you control enters, investigate, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Titania, another solid one. Another great way to start getting wide boards. When it enters, return target land from your graveyard to the battlefield. More recursion. And whenever land you control is put into a graveyard, create an elemental. World Breaker. Oh god. Devoid. It's an Eldrazi. When you cast the spell, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land. It's a 5/7 with reach, and it has tap 3, sacrifice a land, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. So nice little removal spell. A bit expensive, but you know, has a nice easy way to be able to recur it, so pretty solid. Escape to the Wilds. Exile top 5 cards to your library. You can play cards exiled this way until the end of your next turn, and you can play an additional land this turn. Solid. Gaze of Granite, another X spell. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X or less. So tap a whole bunch of lands, you got a nice solid board wipe. The Gitrog monster. It's a 6/6, it has Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sacrifice a land, and you can play additional lands on each of your turns. Whenever 1 or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. So again, sack lands, draw cards. And Corvold! They have Corvold in the 99 in this deck! Corvold! Corvold's one of my commanders, actually, in a deck that I built a long time ago, but he's just... He a beautiful dragon boy. Whenever Corvold enters or attacks, sacrifice another permanent, and whenever you sacrifice another permanent, he gets a 1/1 counter and you draw a card. I did not anticipate having him as part of the 99, but, like, that's wild. And Mazarek, Kral Death Priest. As flying, whenever another player sacrifices a permanent, you get a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Oh, good god. That'll explode so fast. Omnath, of course. I feel like Omnath is just like a must include in any landfall deck. Whenever a land you control enters, you get an elemental, and whenever another elemental dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to any target. Soul of Windgrace, what is this? It's a mythic. It's a cat avatar. Whenever Soul of Windgrace enters or attacks, you can put a land from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control. Oh, from a graveyard! So you can actually steal from your opponent's graveyards and take their lands. Oh, that's nasty. Tap 1, discard a land, you gain 3 life. Tap 2, discard a land, draw a card. Tap 3, discard a land, and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So, essentially kind of a slightly improved upon regenerate, because basically it still taps like a regenerate would, but also gains indestructible. That's neat. Windgrace's Judgment. For any number of opponents, destroy target non-land permanent that opponent controls. Yep, so nice little choose each person something of value, get rid of it. World Soul Rage deals X damage to any target, then put X lands from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Oh, so you can get some lands from the graveyard or battlefield or hand, so that's pretty nice. Canyon Slough, nice little tap land. There's our value lands. More of those value lands. There we are. We got our Farseek, so got our ramp. Springbloom Druid, of course. sacrifice a land, and you get 2. Binding of the Old Gods, a nice saga. First turn, you get to destroy something. Second turn, you get more ramp. And then the last turn, you get Death Touch on all your creatures. Always a fun one. There's our Signet Soul Ring Classic. There's more of our value lands. Infernal Grasp. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. Okay, solid. Night's Whisper, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. Always a good one. Sprouting Goblin. Oh, it has 2 colors. That's a kicker. When this creature enters, if it was kicked, search your library for a land with a basic land type, reveal it, and put it in your hand, and then shuffle. And you could, also tap 1 sack a land, draw a card. Aftermath Analyst, when it enters, mill 3. Sacrifice this creature, return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, solid. Beast Within. Nice removal. Destroy a permanent and the opponent gets a beast. Cultivate, must have. Groundskeeper. Return basic land from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so nice little random recursion. Harrow. As an additional cost to this spell, sacrifice a land and then search your library for 2 lands, put them on the battlefield. Solid. Nature's Lore. Another solid ramp. So much ramp. Oh my god. Ramp. Skyshaw Crane Lamp. Tear Asunder. Another solid removal. Has a kicker. Exile target artifact or enchantment, and if you kicked it, you can do 2 instead. Jury. Of course, in a sacrifice deck, you got to include Jury. It gets a 1/1 counter whenever you sacrifice something, and when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power. Mayhem Devil, another must include. I feel like Mayhem Devil's almost become kind of a pet card to me. I have so many decks that I've included this in. I love this card so much. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this creature does 1 damage to any target, so that also keeps your opponents from sacrificing things too. Putrefy, solid removal. Rakdos Charm, a must-have in any sort of I love Rakdos Charm because it has so much versatility too, because you can exile a person's graveyard, you can destroy an artifact, or if they have another go wide strategy, you can just ping them for a bunch of damage. Urg, Spawn of Turg. Try saying that 10 times fast. Power equal to the number of lands in your graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. Okay, so nice little way to get through your deck. Sacrifice a land, you gain some life. Solid. Bajuka Bog. Always gotta have that graveyard hate. Caporetti Courtyard. Interesting that they would include Caporetti Courtyard in here of all things, but it is nice because you play it, sacrifice it instantly, and get to search for another land and gain a life, so always a good card. Dark Mount. See, this is a tap land. Excuse me. I got so excited I forgot how to breathe for a moment there. Escape Tunnel, sack your land, search for a land, or you can sack it and make a creature with power 2 or less not be able to be blocked. Always good. There's Evolving Wilds, Maestro Theater. When this land enters, you can sacrifice it, look for an island, swamp, or mountain. Again, another one of these that kind of an odd fit in this deck just because of the colors, but at the same time, you still get that same value because you play a land, sack it, and then you get 2 lands for your landfall triggers. Myriad, of course. Riveteer's Outlook. They included all of these in here. All of the play it, sack it instantly, and search for a land cards. That's awesome. So even if you don't keep them in this deck, you get some nice value. Some other decks, Rocky Tar Pit. You can sacrifice it to search for a swamp or mountain. Okay. Oh, and we got a Wastes in here? That was unexpected. I was not anticipating. Oh, I guess there is an Eldrazi in here, so there's a couple of other stuff in there too. Edge, of course, you can bring Cabaret Courtyard back with your graveyard recursion too, so nice extra value out of that. There's the rest of our lands. And there's our tokens. So there you have it, folks. The World Shaper, Edge of Eternities Precon, and the Counterintelligence Edge of Eternities Precon. I'm excited. Both of these decks seem like they're going to be bringing some fun stuff to the table, and I'm very excited to give both of these a whirl. This is going to be a fun set to play with, and I'm very excited to play with both the Proliferate mechanic and this self-sacrificing landfall / land sacking mechanic. It's gonna be wild. I'm very excited to try out these precons, and of course my usual rule of thumb is I like to try to precons vanilla before I end up adding stuff to them, but both of these decks have plenty of room for some nasty upgrades to get put in there as well. But either way, very excited to have these new decks to play with, and thank you all so much for being here to join me on this adventure. Which one am I leaning towards? Honestly, it's hard for me to say. I'm enticed by the counterintelligence one just because the Proliferate mechanic is one that I'm not as familiar with, and I'm kind of curious to try that one out, if for no other reason because of that, because it seems like it's going to be a fun mechanic to play with. And I think for that one, honestly, I think that the Counterintelligence 1 needs to have Kilo as the commander for that one, because you really do need that proliferate mechanic to get the most value out of that deck. I mean, don't get me wrong, the flagship vessel in Sprit does seem like it's going to be a fun one as well. Get some counters on other creatures and some charge counters, and then giving other things hexproof and stuff like that. But I really do think that Kilo is where you're going to get the highest amount of value long run, assuming of course you can keep him alive. And then for the World Shaper deck, I am very curious about this one too. It's introducing some interesting land mechanics that I think are going to be a lot of fun. Between the two of them, like, South World does seem interesting, but I really do think that for this one, I might actually lean towards the spaceship, because I think, again, similarly so, I think you're going to get more value out of it long term, because it's only 2 charge to get to the first level on the spaceship. Tap it, sack a land, and draw 2 cards, which card draw early on is always good. Plus, being able to play the additional lands to make up for it is nice. And having that ping when you sack lands to ping opponents, like, this seems like it can get really nasty really quick. So I'm thinking that between the two, it'll probably be the spaceship for the World Shaper, and it'll be Kilo for counterintelligence. But in either case, that's our stream for today, folks. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate all y'all being here to join me on this adventure and joining in the excitement of getting to open up these sets with me. I'm very excited to see where these go from here. I know you have many choices in entertainment. Thank you as always from the bottom of my heart for letting me be your discount bard.